man, I gotta admit, it is as a fan, it is really hard sometimes to just not relish in a big time victory like the one that we saw on Saturday night. Fortunately for us, it is a bye week, so we can spend a little extra time reflecting on Saturday. Guys, we'll dive in here. Um, Saturday night, many of you saw just pure passion and excitement from me in the instant reaction episode. But since then, I have taken the time to gather my thoughts and focus my attention on the beloved bye week, a week where we get to refresh, maybe spend time with some family, some friends, even our football widowed wives who have lost their husbands due to football season. And if you're like me, we just get to recline at a 45-degree angle and enjoy some stress-free college football. Howdy, howdy, fans of the 12th man. Welcome into this bye-week episode of Above the Yell. I'm your host, Weston Pope. In this episode, I'm going to spend a little time reflecting on Saturday night in South Bend, talk about this Texas A&M football team and how they sustain success moving forward. And even give some bonus college football predictions with games that I am paying attention to this weekend. Guys, thank you for watching. The last episode that I published on Saturday, as of 5-10 minutes ago, it has nearly 350 views, which is by far the most views for an Above the Yell episode. And I just want to say thank you very much with much gratitude and love. Thank you all for the support. Please continue to like and subscribe because I'll tell you, I'm extremely motivated to keep this thing rolling. Once again, before we get started, there's something that I said on the last episode, which was the instant reaction episode. I led some of you viewers astray by something I said, and I said that ranked wins only count if the team you beat is ranked at the end of the season. However, turns out I had it a little backwards. This win will count as a ranked win no matter where Notre Dame sits come season's end. But if Notre Dame was not ranked Saturday night but found themselves in the top 25 at the end of the season, obviously that doesn't mean A&M gets to add a ranked win to the resume. So I just had it a little backwards. So the reason I point this out is just because with the new playoff era we're in, a team's resume matters. So just wanted to clear that up real quickly. But without further ado, guys, let's reflect on Saturday night. Texas A&M gets its first top 10 ranked road win. Wow, say that 10 times fast. Since 1979. So of course, we're going to talk about it a little bit. Winning on the road is simply hard, especially when you're playing a top 10 team in an environment such as the one that Notre Dame has. And I think when it comes to winning on the road, we don't have to go that far back to look at how difficult it is. The Georgia-Tennessee game on Saturday, that was a phenomenal game. Georgia walks into Knoxville, finds themselves down 21-7 in the first quarter. Obviously, Georgia ends up pulling away and getting a win out of there. But that's a game that went into overtime, and Tennessee should have really won the game off on a walk-off field goal. However, the kicker unfortunately missed it. And for those of you who watched that game, you know how that unfolded. But my point of all this is that as good as a program that Georgia has had for about the past half decade or even more, they're under Kirby Smart. Like they went on the road in a tough environment, and they were able to squeak out a win. Obviously, both very good teams there in Tennessee and Georgia. To my point, I believe that that we have a good team here in A&M. Notre Dame, I think they'll be fine. Looking at the rest of their schedule, obviously we're not here to talk about Notre Dame, but moving forward, I think they're going to be a good football team and find themselves winning some games as the season goes on. So what did we see from A&M Saturday night that was just so impressive? Obviously, this is just strictly my opinion, but I think we saw a competent offense. I know that's been a huge topic this week. A&M's offense seems to be, for the first time in a long time, loaded with some superstars on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Marcel Reed, Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion have been in the spotlight, and rightfully so. Reed had over 300 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Craver, wide receiver, he had over 200 yards receiving along with a touchdown, and Concepcion had nearly 100 yards on the night. Now, both those guys, Craver and Concepcion, are transfers. They transferred into the program. A&M said, "Hey, we're gonna go get these guys." And what's fascinating about them coming to A&M is, uh, I believe Elko said that at the end of last season, when they were evaluating the team, when they were evaluating their needs, he went to the guys and was like, "Hey," obviously defensive guys, and he was like, "Look, we're looking at to add," and of course I'm paraphrasing, but essentially along the lines of, "We're looking to add some wide receivers to our team. Who did you guys go up against that was the most difficult?" And right off the bat, they said Mario Craver. Casey Concepcion, they didn't end up playing because he was at NC State last year, and NC State plays in the ACC, so A&M and them did not play, but I imagine he would have been somewhere along that line as well. But they said Mario Craver, so fascinating stuff there. Credit to each of those guys. Man, they're ballers, and it is a lot of fun to watch. Le'Veon Moss, he had 3 touchdowns on the night, along with 20 carries for 81 yards. What I liked about that is I think that's exactly what we want to see from Moss. The way that they used him in the red zone, I think, defines who he is as a running back. We all know, those of us who are close to the program and watch A&M football, we know how talented Moss is, and I love the way that they utilized his abilities. Saturday night, he's built like a downhill runner with his large frame, and we know he has speed once he gets in the open space. But I thought the way they used him running in between the tackles, not necessarily running out wide, but just keeping it all there in the focus. It was just, yeah, phenomenal night for him. Other guys that I loved to watch and week after week is Terry Bussey. Man, he still makes returns look easy. He also had a pretty nice night on offense. I believe he got 1 or 2 catches for some chunk yardage, so he does get some time there. Despite the holding call, he had that nice kick return there inside the last 4 minutes of the football game. Obviously, that got called back because of a holding penalty, and I think the fact that got called back was kind of a little bit of a blessing in disguise, just because I think looking back on it, if that touchdown would have counted on that kick return, say A&M went up 41-40, there was over 2 minutes left in the game. The 2-minute warning had not happened yet, so could have given Notre Dame a ton of time to go down and score. And then Randy Bond, he had a nice second half. Obviously, he missed the field goal in the first half right there before halftime, but he made the kicks that he needed to make there in the second half, and including the one that put him up 1 point. Scooby Williams switching to the defensive side. Scooby Williams, DJ Hicks, Albert Regis, Des Ricks, Will Lee, and I thought those guys played great. It was just, yeah, inspiring football at times, and it was cool to see that defensive line and even the secondary kind of clamp down when they needed to. Man, there were so many opportunities for A&M to lose that game. Nate Borkacher, he was the one who caught the final touchdown pass to win the game. Man, he had 1 catch in the game, and it was the biggest catch and the one that mattered most to ultimately win the game. And then just from this A&M team as a whole, I thought there's so much resilience and a short memory is kind of the way that I would describe it. There was, like I said, so many opportunities for A&M to blow this thing. They got behind early with some mistakes. Obviously, the blocked punt. They were down 17-7 at one point, and and just in their first 2 offensive drives got stalled out due to penalties. It's amazing. It's really cool to see these guys respond, and that's something that Elko talked about is they responded well and did what they needed to do to get out of there with the win. And I think that's a reflection of culture and what Mike Elko wants to do with this program going forward. So a lot to be said there. Just some night and day differences. And speaking of differences, what's the difference with this A&M team? And this is just from my perspective. We've got a passionate coach who clearly doesn't like to lose. Elko, the NBC cast, they showed him throwing the chair there early in, I believe, maybe it was late in the first half or early in the second half. I think it was in the first half, when the defense was just not playing up to speed. And they showed that on the cast, and some people might take a look at that and think that maybe it's uncalled for, but to me, it shows a guy who is just extremely passionate and knows his guys and knows that his defense can play better simply than they were, and that it's just that simple to me. So we've got a heck of a coach, I think, in Mike Elko. And it's not that I ever believed he wasn't a good coach, but it's cool to see it on display Saturday night, and it's even better to see his passion, his desire to win come out in a big time moment. And it was just something that he clearly has been teaching these guys through practice, and just to see it come to fruition on the field is just really exciting stuff. So what does it look like going forward? Can A&M sustain this success and simply just not be a one-hit wonder? Because we have seen that as A&M fans. For those of you who have been close to the program for the last decade or more, we have seen these guys jump out to pretty hot starts and then stumble to an 8-4 finish. That's a popular slogan that's obviously been going around the program. And I think with where they are right now at 3-0, coming off a big win, obviously, especially in year two under a new head coach. My simple answer to how does A&M sustain this success, and what does that look like going forward? To me, history is the best teacher. Past experiences that these guys have been through is the best teacher. And just to go back in a little bit of history for A&M, we'll go all the way back to 2014. This is the first season post Manziel. A&M, they jumped out to a quick 5-0 start with notable wins over over number 9 ranked South Carolina at the time. This was the Kenny Hill season debut. We all kind of remember that game. Just took it to South Carolina there on the road, and walked out of there with a massive win. And then Arkansas, they had Arkansas on one of their notable wins for those first 5 games to get them to 5-0, and we all know how that game tends to just be a dogfight. And despite starting that 2014 season 5-0, they stumbled to a 7-5 regular season finish. Flash forward to 2015, start 5-0 again with wins over 15 ranked Arizona State and 21 ranked Mississippi State. Guess what? They went on to stumble to an 8-4 finish. That was, I believe, 2015 was the poor management of quarterbacks. That's when you had the Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray debacle. There was a lot that went on there. But anyways, moving on to 2016, even better. They started 6-0 with wins over number 16 UCLA, number 17 Arkansas, and number 9 Tennessee. That Tennessee game was phenomenal. I still remember that game today. Went into overtime with Trevor Knight. This was the Trevor Knight year. Yeah, anyone want to guess how they finished? It's become a real popular slogan around the A&M program. And yeah, they finished 8-4 after going 6-0. And then going to 2017, Kellen Mond's first year, they had a terrible and forgetful, even though it's hard to forget, it needs to be forgetful. They had that big loss to UCLA on the road where they blew a massive lead. They did manage to get to 4-1 that season in 2017, but stumbled again to a 7-5 finish. 2018, another year of ups and downs. They had some ranked wins along the way. That was the first year of Jimbo Fisher. They had the 7 overtime game with LSU. They had the overtime game with Kentucky. So they had some nice wins there. Went 8-4. 2019 kind of took a step back, went 7-5, but they also had the toughest schedule that year in 2019. They played uh, all three number one ranked teams, and I believe that was the year when Alabama was ranked number one. No, excuse me. Clemson was ranked number one at the time that A&M played them. Alabama was ranked number one at the time they played them, and then LSU at the end of the season was ranked number one by the time they played them. So 2019, tough year, especially for a year two coach. And then 2020, that's kind of when we looked at this thing and looked at A&M. It was like, okay, they went 9-1. That was the COVID year. Say what you want about it, but yeah, they went 9-1. That one loss coming to Alabama. Alabama ended up winning the national championship that year with Mac Jones, and that was kind of like, okay, they go and win the Orange Bowl against UNC, and it's like, all right, maybe year three, this is kind of the turn point that they needed that shows, okay, they're taking that next step. Well, 2021, they had the they beat number one Alabama there at Kyle Field. As exciting as that was, they still stumbled to an 8-4 finish. 2022, that was a year that just is hard to describe that one in a reasonable amount of time. But anyways, 2022, they went 5-7. It's the worst year they've had. I believe they had in 50 years or something crazy like that. 2023. That was the year that Jimbo got fired. They went 7-5. I believe the last 2 or 3 games of that season were coached by interim coach. And then 2024, they get off to a 5-0 start in SEC. They take down LSU in a thriller to take the number one spot in the conference. And then they stumble to a 5-3 conference record. So what's the point of me lining all that out? Well, it's because A&M has simply been in this position before, and we as fans have seen it crumble down. And I think Elko has also seen it crumble down, and he's aware of it and aware of how things went last year. But the reason for all this is simply I'm here to give you hope. And I'm kind of preaching to myself here too a little bit. I think this group, the offense, the defense, the whole team, I think they understand what happened last year. I think they remember how it felt to be at the top, and then simply just what went wrong on the way down to stumble to 8-4. And honestly, I'm going to take a leap of faith this season, and I hope you guys will join me. The Aggies are 3-0 right now. It's way too early to project anything extraordinary that's going to happen. I'm not here to say that they're going to go undefeated. I'm not here to say that they're going to make a playoff run. But what I can say is I don't think that this year's team stumbles to 8-4. And that's a huge leap of faith to say that, if you ask me. I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, it would have been yesterday, Wednesday. Mike Elko said it's time to let the battered Aggie syndrome, to let it go and to be excited about this program and be excited about where it's headed. And okay, all right. I believe this team is capable of achieving new heights for A&M. I heard you loud and clear, Coach Elko. And notice that I said they are capable of achieving new heights. I didn't say that it was absolutely going to happen. But I think this team has a very high capability to go far, and I'm very excited to see how this thing pans out. Obviously, I'm not around the team. In fact, I'm probably furthest away from the team as possible compared to many. I'm not at the practices during the week. All I see is the team that goes out on the field on Saturday, the team that was out there on Saturday against Notre Dame on the road. And from where I sit, here in Wyoming. I think this Texas A&M team has attitude that we haven't really seen before. There seems to be a sort of meanness to them in this we don't care what you think characteristic um, that we just simply haven't seen before. What do I mean by that? Well, yeah, Armaj Reed Adams plays on the offensive line, wears number 55. I love the chair that he has. He's had that chair since last season. I love what he's done this year. He's put the opponent's sticker on the chair after they beat him. Obviously, the sticker on there now is UTSA, Utah State, Notre Dame, and it's just something that I like to see. There's an aggressiveness there. There's seems to be a little bit of a meanness. There's a pregame skirmish between A&M and Notre Dame. I don't know the details of that, but it's as long as it's not anything just crazy ridiculous where people are throwing punches, but just having a little bit of a meanness and a chip on your shoulder. Man, football can be a mean game. And so far, I love what I'm seeing from these guys and just seeing from the team. And obviously, it's easy to talk about all the good things when you're 3-0 in the bye week and just coming off a top 10 team. But man, there's just a lot to be excited about going forward in this program, especially under Coach Elko. So excited to see that. I told you guys that I would give you some bonus content for games that I am paying attention to here over the weekend, here Saturday. In fact, I'm actually headed to a football game myself. I'm headed to Denver, Colorado to watch the Wyoming Cowboys take on the Colorado Buffaloes. So I will be in Boulder Saturday watching that game on ESPN, or that game will be on ESPN, but I will be there in Folsom Field watching in person. I'm very excited for this opportunity. I've always wanted to go to Folsom Field, so I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, excited to see what the Cowboys can do. Games that I am paying attention to, I am going to pay attention to the Auburn and Oklahoma game, naturally, because Auburn is A&M's next opponent out of the bye. So I will be watching the Auburn-Oklahoma game. To me, this game, with what I've seen from Auburn and what I know about Auburn so far, it looks like Jackson Arnold looks to be a decent quarterback. They use him a lot in the run game. He churns up some yards with his legs. However, I don't know that he's necessarily proven himself as a passer just yet. This game reminds me a lot of the Oklahoma versus Michigan game from a couple weeks ago. Bryce Underwood, went into Norman there, and you just saw him struggle. And obviously, Jackson Arnold is not a true freshman, but it is his return to Norman. So, kind of a big deal there. I'll be paying attention to see what they do. I know Auburn, they have some dudes out there at wide receiver. They got Cam Coleman, they got Singleton. I believe he transferred in from Georgia Tech there, and we'll see what they trot out there. But I'm taking Oklahoma in this game. Like I said, I think it's another very similar game as that Oklahoma and Michigan game from a couple weeks back. John Mateer looks like a really solid quarterback. I believe he's leading the country as far as quarterbacks go, and I could see this game being probably 31-17. I think Auburn, they're obviously talented enough to get 17, but I think Oklahoma, being at home in Norman, will kind of take this game away there in the second half. And another game that I will be paying attention to is Nebraska plays Michigan on Saturday. That is another game I'll be paying attention to. Nebraska. I've said this to a couple people. I haven't said it here on the channel, but Nebraska was one of my teams who I thought was kind of flying under the radar and could be a lot better than people anticipated them to be. So I will be paying attention to that game. That game will be in Lincoln. So yeah, excited to watch that one. Michigan at Nebraska. I got Nebraska winning. I think it's going to be a fairly close game. I got Nebraska 28-24. Obviously, Michigan's they got the young quarterback Bryce Underwood, who looks pretty talented. Just kind of needs to fine tune his abilities a little bit as he is a true freshman. So yeah, those are two games I'll be paying attention to. You got Oklahoma and Auburn, Michigan and Nebraska. And then I will be in person for the Wyoming Cowboys as they take on the Colorado Buffaloes. Heck, I might as well roll with the Cowboys on that one. I'm going with the Cowboys in an upset win there in Boulder, taking down Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffs. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I appreciate it. Like and subscribe, as I said. Hey, comment below with any of your predictions or games that you'll be paying attention to. I appreciate all of the feedback, guys, and as always, gig 'em.